If you grill it, he will come.
Hey.
Hey.
Is this heaven?
Nope. It's Fareway.
I'll have the bacon cheeseburger.
Got it. That'll be right up.
Oh, man. I wish I would have gotten that. You know what to do. Audible. Chicken wing, chicken wing, chicken wing. 42, 42.
I got you, Rocco.
There's nothing better than getting what you want, and Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails has everything you want. Great burgers, sandwiches, wings, and more. Call an audible on your next meal out. Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails, Ames.
A fuel choice that even rivals can agree on? Now that's worth the hype. Cheaper, cleaner, and homegrown. Pump it up with unleaded 88. Two guys, two Chris's, one network. Iowa Everywhere. It's time for Two Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
No.
I can't hear myself.
I can't either. I can't hear. Can you hear me?
I'm asking if you can hear me.
I can't.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear
No,
myself.
I can't. No.
Guys,
I don't think-
I've told you 100 times. You have to turn these things on. Talent.
You know, the best part about that spot is it's so true. I could totally see that happening.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Murph and Andy would be lost without AD. Welcome back, Andrew Downs. How long has it been? What's it been? 9 months since he's been a part of the program?
Yeah. It's got to be something like that. Yeah. And man, that another one just warms the old heart, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It tugs at the heartstrings.
Williams,
getting Murph and Andy, getting Randy Pete, and bringing AD out of his broadcasting retirement. Now, he will still be doing his full-time job with AKC Marketing, who I use all the time with Cyclone Fanatic and Iowa Everywhere. You guys should, too. They do a great job with merch, all that good stuff. But we absolutely love having Andrew back on the team, and he will be the full-time producer of Murph and Andy 3 days a week, starting next week.
A week from today.
A week from today.
You know what's great about this is every year RVTV would roll around week 1, week 2, I should say, when they should be responding to week 1. But it lands on Labor Day. So I tune in.
Yeah.
And they're not working. KXNO lets those bastards off for
it drove me
Labor
nuts
Day.
when
like,
I
what
was.
the hell is going on? You got to react to game 1. You've got to set the table for Cyhawk Week, and they're not working. Well, they're with us now, and they're working, baby.
They're working.
The Iowa Everywhere cattle prod to their ass.
Yeah, we don't take off Labor Day. That's
hey,
no.
I want to shout out to Kevin, who is in class today.
Yes!
He says day 1 of class, and he's listening to Two Guys. What have I done?
Kevin, tell us what class you're in. I'd really be curious to know. I'd really be curious to know about that. Good morning. It is game week. We made it. You know what, Chris? You know I love doing shows with you because it never even feels like the off season. It feels like we just keep going. Like the shows don't really. But it's nice to have football back, right?
Oh yeah, it's nice. It's real nice.
It's nice to have football back. Got our feet wet over the weekend. Little Ireland action. The Seminoles. Oh my God, dude! We were in our little group text, and I was trying to tell y'all that I didn't trust DJ in Mike Norvell's system, and I thought that could be a major problem. I was right. I'm not right very often. God, he looked horrible. That guy, I mean, you talk about one of the big busts in college football history. You'd think he'd have enough reps now where he could just go anywhere and just be decent. He was horrible. Horrible for
Now,
Fitz.
I did give him a little credit.
No.
He led that big drive, the last chance he had it, to tie the game? It's not his fault the defense couldn't stop Georgia Tech from riding down there and kicking the game-winning field goal. Florida State just they are just an overrated team. They should not have been number 10 in the country. They lost pretty much every star player they had off last year's team. And DJU is just not a difference maker at quarterback.
DJU should honestly, he should be like in the Sun Belt.
I don't know about that. I think he's okay. I mean,
sorry, my faint Florida State fandom might be coming out just a little bit.
You're just pissed.
But I honestly but I knew that was going to happen. Like if you watch Mike Norvell football, and I'm a huge fan, dating back to when Iowa State played them in the Liberty Bowl, and he was at Memphis, and I think that guy is a rock star coach, and he needs a quarterback though, and that ain't a quarterback for his system at least. For his system, it's not
I was
work.
surprised that that's the quarterback they ended up with. DJU.
It's just a bad fit. Everybody knew it. Anyways,
well, what'd you think about taking that game in and thinking a year from now Iowa State's going to be right there in that spot?
You know what? It pushed me towards going. I don't want to miss that.
Time.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that. It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity, you know? It's like what is life? Like life our friend Keith Murphy always tells us about, spending your money on experiences and not things. And I admire Keith for that. Him and his wife Jenny are out doing stuff all the time, and I'm pulling the kids out of school and I'm taking to Ireland next year.
You're taking the kids too?
Oh yeah, I'm going to take the kids. Once in a lifetime, man.
Oh my
God. They get to go and watch Coach Campbell and the boys.
We just going out on a charter together? I'll take my kids.
Oh,
dude,
look, now Van Wink's
take the 2-year-old
barging in.
The charter thing is
go.
super tricky. Because it's locked down from that one group that runs and owns the whole game. So there's really only the one charter, that Aer Lingus. I've looked into this because we were going to do one with Cyclone Fanatic, and it's near.
Aer Lingus.
They kind of embargoed the travel packages around to that game, and it gets you access to the early tickets too. They won't release those, I think, till February or something like that. So
Randy Peterson's watching. His new column is up on the website right now. Aiden will have that tweeted out here any minute. Randy will be writing columns for us every Monday and Thursday here on Iowa Everywhere. I know. People are like, what a minute. You're writing articles now? You're goddamn right we are.
Well, and he's gotten Keith Murphy to do something Keith is never comfortable doing. Randy Peterson is getting Keith Murphy to pick college football games.
Oh.
Keith has never done that before. He's afraid to look bad. But for Randy Peterson, he says he'll do it. So that's going to be coming out later on in the week where all of us are going to be picking games.
Yeah, that'll be a nice piece. Randy and he's going to because he's a wordsmith. And he's going to weave all of our predictions into one column.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to do key Big 10 and Big 12 games. And then, of course, Iowa and Iowa State. So go and check that out. His first last week was his opening column. What is he doing here? This is his first nuts and bolts Iowa State football column. We do have another columnist that will be joining us. I'll announce that this week. Are we doing an announcement for the other announcement today?
No.
We didn't talk about this.
No, not today.
No,
it's later in the week.
All right. I didn't know.
We've got so many big announcements. We've got to spread them out a little bit. We don't want to get one to get, lost in the shadow of another. Today, AD is back. This is AD's day. Let him soak it in. My God, we just pushed it out 40 minutes ago on social media, and you're already looking to overshadow AD.
No, AD's...
Hey, wait! Enough. By the way, do you not look at me on the broadcast? Do you not see me?
It's funny. I was just explaining this to Van Winkle. We have a camera setup problem here, and he's going to come over today and fix it. My camera is like 4 inches higher than my screen.
Why can't you lower the camera?
Because the tripod is too tall and it doesn't have a lower setting. So we're fixing it. Van Winkle's coming over today. If you would get here before 2 minutes before we start, maybe you'd be in on these conversations.
I was. And then you took a call from Lystico, who was getting his tee shot.
He's getting his tee shot over at Game Day Men's Health in West Des Moines, and the nurse over there tells Lystico how many of y'all are going in and getting tee shots. She said it's unbelievable. I've never seen advertising work like this. I'm not kidding. She was like thanking Chad. Chad was like, oh, yeah, it's great. I love the tee. So here's the deal. When it looks like I'm looking down, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, so you're doing the right thing. You want to look at the camera and not me. But
yes,
I've always wondered that because things will happen, and you won't even react to them. I'm back in the pod room.
Because I'm trying to make the audience think I'm looking at you right now.
Okay. My dad says, I hope he cleaned the Ames helmet inside and out. Why? What did you do to that?
I told you what he did in that helmet. He defaced it.
What do you think he did?
Don took a shit in it.
He pissed in the Ames helmet? Can you get... Okay, so my dad had COVID, and he was staying in this podcast room.
Paxlovid.
I understand, the phlegm and everything going all over the place, but... If you, like, just say he pissed in the helmet, could I get COVID from his piss?
Not now.
No, but at the time. No. I mean, does COVID travel through urine?
That was a conspiracy theory when COVID came out, but I think they proved that was not. I don't think pee. I think COVID can live in fecal matter, but
yeah, because they always what they do is they take the little thermometers and they put them down in the shit in the sewers and they test how much COVID is in there.
Yeah, but
that's what they do. That's how they check it. Did you know that?
No, say that again.
They take like little thermometers and they stick it down in the sewers underneath our cities, and the shit tells them how much COVID is in the population.
Shut the hell up! You're making that up.
No, I swear to God,
it's true.
What are you talking about?
Telling you.
You're telling me some guy, once a day, he'll go and stick a thermometer in a sewer. And they'd be like, here we go. 63% of the population is healthy, and we got 10% with COVID.
I'm being told it's not a thermometer. A medical professional is telling me this. It's not in urine, but they do. They go down, they go into the sewers, and they scoop up a bunch of shit, and that's how they judge how much COVID is in a population. I swear to God.
But why are they looking to see how much COVID is in the population? Like, what?
I don't think they're
still doing this.
They were doing that during the height of COVID.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're still doing it.
I thought you meant that they're still doing it. Like, I'm going to look outside and there's going to be a guy from the city out opening the manhole. Hey, how you doing? Good. How are you? What are you doing? Well, I'm checking the COVID. Checking the COVID levels of the city today.
So I was with another medical professional on Friday night when I went to that honky tonk, and we were discussing your issue with Don contaminating your podcast room.
Mm-hmm.
And you were being extra cautious for no reason. That COVID can't live in the air after like 8 hours, it's done.
So I was looking it up, and it said that it could live anywhere, depending on the surface, from 3 to 5 days. So I didn't want to risk it. But this medical professional says this kind of like the new COVID. You're talking about like the new COVID that people have now.
Yeah,
that's
just
like a mutation of the original.
At that point, it's already settled on the furniture, and it's not. You can't get it anymore. It's dead. Because once it's like dry, it's fine, according to this medical professional at the honky tonk.
You found a doctor at the honky tonk?
Well, yeah, remember when we were all freaked out? You're like, oh, we're wiping everything down. They said that didn't really actually matter, though. COVID spread through particles, like through the mouth.
I know that it can still live on surfaces, but look, and I'm not some crazy, COVID guy. COVID to me is like a cold. Honestly, it's probably better than a cold. Like, I would rather have COVID than a cold, because at least with COVID, they get you on this cocktail of drugs, this Paxlovid, and they can treat you for cold. There's nothing you can do.
Man, I think it depends on how bad you get COVID.
It depends on. But I'm talking about for me specifically.
The two times I've had it, and maybe I've had it more and didn't know it. But the 2 times I've had it, like the first time I thought I was going to die. Like I legitimately thought I was going to die. The second time, it just took forever to get rid of.
I've only been diagnosed once with it, and I was fine within a couple of days. With a cold, I'm sick for 2 weeks.
Joey wants to know, could the T shot from Game Day Men's Health kill COVID?
Could the T kill the C?
Two guys with Chris and Chris. We are presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery. I smoked a 10-pound pork butt yesterday from Fareway. Made pulled pork for the family for all week. We're going to have carnitas tonight. It's a very, very versatile meat that you can pick up over there at the meat counter at Fareway Meat and Grocery. We are also in the Channel Seed Studios, counting down to the Blackhawk concert coming up on Wednesday night in Grand Junction. I had Van Winks pull a little Blackhawk for us.
Yeah, because I don't even know who they are.
This is going to be amazing.
We would like to say one thing real quick before we get on. When the moon is bright on a Saturday night, there's 1,000 stars in the sky.
Look at this.
What the hell is this guy wearing? He looks like a nutcracker.
She wants to go back. She opens her heart to her memory. She closes her eyes.
That's coming up on Wednesday.
How old is this video?
1994, I think.
Some Farm Aid.
What the hell is Farm Aid?
Well, this is what's going to be going on up at the Fouch compound in Grand Junction on Wednesday night. All of our friends from Channel Seed are going to be there.
Is that the Iowa State Fair? Yeah, it looks like the fairgrounds.
Might be.
Well, we'll be able to send you lots of videos and stuff because this party's, I'm told, is going to go on until about 1 o'clock in the morning. It's the Farm Progress show all week here in Iowa. Do you know that, Hassel?
I don't know what that means.
Well, it's farm and it's progress. So all the seedsmen get together and they talk about all the progress they're making.
All the progress they're making?
Innovation, baby.
Speaking of innovation, all right, we hit Ireland. Iowa is always, the Hawks are trying to innovate that quarterback position, that offense. Every year we see something new out of Kirk Ferentz's playbook. Speaking of Lystico, 5 bold predictions from Chad at our friends at the Des Moines Register, and one of these stood out to you.
Yeah,
Hassel.
And I think there's one that stood out to everybody, and it was his bold prediction number 2, which is Brendan Sullivan will make at least 5 starts at quarterback. And we've talked about this. And
this is good. This is good for Iowa.
I can't remember where we put the over-under when we guessed a couple of months ago, but I'm pretty sure we had it somewhere between 4 and 7 games. What would you say right now? We know Cade McNamara. I will lick my own dog bite if Cade McNamara is not number 1 on the depth chart when it comes out later on today, Monday. We're recording this before the depth chart comes out. I will lick my own dog bite if Cade McNamara does not start game 1 and he's healthy.
He's
but
number
how
1.
many games will Brendan Sullivan start this season?
The problem is their schedule, right? Well, I don't know, because Iowa State you could lose. You theoretically could lose at Minnesota.
You're going to lose at Ohio State.
You're definitely losing at Ohio State. So it's like...
But, what? You shouldn't just be looking at whether or not you win or you lose if you're looking to bench somebody. You also have to... Chad points out the reason Chad goes with 5+ is because it's either going to be performance-based or he's going to get injured again. He's had 2 major knee injuries since the last time he really played healthy, which was at Michigan.
I'm with Chad.
I am too.
I just think Sullivan's better than McNamara too. Like I've been pretty consistent with this,
and I think he's the better option for this offense. I think Cade, once upon a time, probably had more talent, but I mean, you can't get past the 2 huge knee injuries, and I just don't know if he's there mentally. Now, is Kirk Ferentz really going to make a change himself? I don't know. It might have to be injury. for Ferentz to pull Cade McNamara from a game. But I'm gonna say he starts 7 games.
So
Brendan
we all
Sullivan.
agree here.
So I'm going to say Sullivan starts 7+ games, but it will not be at the start of the season.
All right, now I got to get to this because I about spit out my Steeple Ridge last night when I was. So you guys, all you Iowa guys, are now basically saying college football playoff or bust for this team. Is this...
A lot of the writers who cover this team day in and day out are, because it was Doctorman who said it on Legends and Listeners maybe a month ago.
I heard him. Yep.
And now we got the H-Log, Mike Halas.
Legend
over there at the Gazette. He wrote an article yesterday, said the same thing. It's college football playoff or bust for Iowa.
Isn't this like Van Winkle claiming that Iowa State fans should be irate if they go 10-2 and don't get to the playoff? Honestly, this seems insane to me.
Well, hang on a second. That was way more. No, Van Wink said he would be disappointed with a 9-3 season if it didn't end up in the Big 12 championship game and the college football playoff. But I'm going to say
I was embellishing, but you know what I'm saying.
But I agree with you that's more insane though than. I guess I disagree with you. That's more insane what Van Wink said than what these Iowa writers are saying. Now, I don't necessarily agree that it's college football playoff or bust for Iowa. I don't agree that if they go 9-3, depending on where those wins are, I don't agree that that's a bust. But
it's not a bust if you go 9-3.
I understand the sentiment that Halas made in his article that I've heard some others make as well.
I haven't read Mike's column yet. I'm looking forward to it. Is it based on the schedule? Is it very schedule driven?
It's based on a lot of things. The main overriding thought is you may never have this good of a shot to make the college football playoff than you do right now. With the way things are going NIL-wise, with all of these guys coming back, especially on defense, for one more year, with the schedule the way that it is. The schedule really can't be much more manageable than it is right now.
And you're catching breaks. So, you have to go to UCLA, but they're terrible this year. You get Washington, which would normally be a pretty tough game, but they're completely resetting everything. You're right. I'm not arguing any of that.
So I think that's the basis for this. It's you better do it now because you might not get another chance in this current landscape, in this new Big Ten, which just look at next year's schedule. Van Winks, can you pull up Iowa's schedule for next season? Because, and Halas points this out, you just compare this season's schedule with next season, and it's so much more difficult. And Iowa is going to have a lot more turnover next season. Kirk Ferentz isn't getting any younger. The NIL dollars aren't going to be I think there's going to be even more of a separation between the Iowas and even the Wisconsins of the world moving forward. Because the Nebraska, for sure. This is not going well NIL-wise for Iowa. I mean, they've even said it themselves. So this is it right now. Now, next year, Ben Winks has the schedule. You've got to play Oregon and Penn State. Both of those teams. And you also have to, you take a lot of you would play USC too on the road. And some of the toss-up games like Wisconsin, Nebraska this year, those are on the road next year. You go to Wisconsin, you go to Nebraska, you go to USC, to Rutgers, and you have to play Oregon and Penn State, both at home. But those are two of the top 4 teams in the Big Ten.
I think we're all confused with how to judge success right now. So would making the college football playoff be equivalent to making the Final Four in basketball, or making
because there's 12. It's not making the Final Four.
Okay,
it would be like making the.
All right, let me ask you this:
kind of making the Elite Eight. It's close to making the Elite Eight.
Let's say Iowa 2 years ago, right? Because last year, just throw it out the window. DeJean goes down. You have Deacon Hill. Nothing is You know what? Screw it. Count that team too. I don't care.
What? Okay,
Whatever.
spit it out. What?
In this era, put those two teams in this era, and let's say they are 10-2, 11-1. I still don't think that they're a playoff team. And I'm going to go straight to Nick Saban this week, who put 5 SEC teams in the college football playoff and had his last one out as an SEC program too. My point is, when you guys say college football playoff or bust, you are putting a hell of a lot in this committee that I think is going to be heavily leaning towards the SEC.
Well, I think you would have to go 11-1.
Yeah, they ain't giving Iowa an at-large very often in many scenarios.
Yeah,
unless Iowa's
10-2
totally
is gonna,
different.
10-2 is going to get you on the edge. It's going to get you on the edge depending on where your wins are and how you look at Ohio State. That is the bellwether game. That's the game that the committee is going to look at if it comes down to that. If Iowa's sitting there 10-2 and they have a loss to, let's just say, Iowa State, and they get blown out by Ohio State, I think there's a very low chance Iowa would get in the playoff.
And, again, perception matters. And Iowa's perception is a team that beats the teams it's supposed to beat and can win some tough games, right? Defense, special teams, all that. But the perception of the Iowa program is not of one that can even hang with really elite teams. And we've seen that time and time again in the last few years. Even while they've been very good, 9-3, 10-2 type seasons, they're not anywhere close. I mean, they had 1 first down against Penn State last year. They didn't score against a ranked team last year, right? Like, this stuff matters when you're putting it in the hands of human beings. Nick Saban and those boys are not going to give you the benefit of doubt. That's my point. I'm not saying Iowa can't go 11-1 or 10-2, but to say or bust, man, you're putting a lot in the hands of those people.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, it's not necessarily going to be a bust if Iowa goes 9-3. Or if they go 10-2 and just don't get a playoff selection because they got blown out by Ohio State. But I see what they're saying, don't you? Like,
yes,
this is
absolutely. I see. That's right.
I think it's less playoff or bust. It's more, if it's gonna happen, this is the year it's gonna happen.
Fair. That's fair. I agree with that premise. Where I disagree is, I don't trust these people in the committee to make, even if Iowa has a resume, a top 12 resume with the at-large, I don't necessarily think they'll give it to them.
So just look at last year, for instance. They won 10 games. They went 10-2 in the regular season, but they had to go play in the Big Ten championship game. They got their ass ripped off their bodies.
Just ripped the ass right off of the spine.
Ass directly off the body. And so they're sitting there 10-3 with 3 losses to the 3 ranked teams they played where they did not score. They would not even come close to being an at-large, even though they would have finished technically second in the Big Ten.
You're going to the Citrus Bowl, you know?
Let's just say they went 10-2 last year, and because of the way the new Big Ten is, let's just say they have the exact same season. They go 10-2 the way that it looked last year in the regular season. That team doesn't make the college football playoff, in my opinion. Even without the big loss in the Big Ten championship game, because of what happened in the regular season, because of the way they looked against ranked teams. And I guess they only played, 1 ranked team in the regular season? But it was Penn State, and it was really ugly. They just didn't have any good wins. Like, the wins just weren't there.
That, and again, I think you're giving too much credit to this committee. This is a television product they're putting together.
Me? Are you saying...
I'm just saying when we're talking about
I'm saying last year at 10-2 with that regular season they had, they would have been leaped by a 9-3 SEC team.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Yeah, I agree with you. What I'm saying is I have so little doubt in this committee. I have so little faith in this committee, excuse me, that even if their resume was better than Ole Miss, just throwing one out, they still wouldn't get put in there because this is a television product.
And I don't know that it could be better than an Ole Miss.
I mean, we
if
saw
I was
it last
10-2
year.
and Ole Miss is 9-3, I'm not sure how the resume could be better, even though you have 1 fewer loss.
They proved it last year with Florida State.
Yeah.
We all know that they would have got their ass
That
kicked.
was more about injury and less about what they were in the regular season. But
'Cause
then
if
throw up
their
that
resume,
the
they
Saban
were-
thing again, because we didn't really hit on that
but
verbally.
My point is, if you just looked at their resume of Florida State, they were a playoff team by the games that they won.
They were 13-0.
But perception matters, and when you're down to your third string quarterback and you can't score a touch, that's my point. With
So Saban puts 5 SEC teams in his college football playoff prediction, and the first team out is also an SEC team. It's Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So he only had 3 Big Ten teams.
1 Big 12 notable.
Yeah, 1 Big 12.
You
and
ain't getting 2, guys.
1 ACC, right? Plus, he does have Notre Dame. They're not an ACC team. They're an independent. But so he had 1 Big 12, 1 ACC, 3 Big 10, and 5 SEC.
Telling you.
There better not be 5 SEC teams in this first playoff. 4, fine. The Big Ten might only get 3. But I think the Big Ten has a chance to get 4. It's a chance. I don't think the Big 12 has any chance to get 2 unless you're sitting there with 1 loss.
Hey, big game for the Big 12 this weekend.
If it's a team that doesn't win the Big 12 and they have 1 loss on the season, I think that team could get in.
This won't get talked about much. Look at this weekend's schedule. Penn State at West Virginia. Big 12 desperately needs to win that game. I know it's early.
What's the spread on that game? Because I remember watching that game last year in Happy Valley, and it really wasn't a game.
No, but this one, it's 9.
It's going to be a hornet's nest there in Morgantown.
I'm just saying, those are the type of games, Iowa State at Iowa, that the Big 12 has to win if you're going to have any prayer at all.
It's Penn State -8.5, according to Van Winks, via the private chat. Can we sell the rights to the private chat?
The private chat presented. What's what's the one where it protects your identity?
LifeLock.
Private chat on Iowa.
Van Wink's chiming in on the LifeLock private chat.
Speaking of our great sponsors, Van Winks, what do we have? We have a special announcement from the Iowa Event Center today.
Yeah. So on All Access last week, we got to talk to Bill Armstrong, the general manager of the Utah Hockey Club. They're making their professional debut at Wells Fargo Arena for the Des Moines Community Classic. And we have a special ticket discount for our listeners. HiVTix.com. There's a promotions tab on the top. You click that, you enter the promo code everywhere. You're going to get discounted tickets to that Utah Hockey Club versus St. Louis Blues game. I believe it's September 22nd, if I believe.
Man, the hockey community is going to eat that. We have a really passionate hockey community in this town. It's not huge, but it's grown significantly over the years, and that place will be full for that game. That'll be cool. Really looking forward to that.
There's really good tickets for that too, and the best thing about hockey, get those glass seats.
Yeah,
get the glass.
I want to see the guys bleed.
And this ticket discount's going to get you a nice discount if you want to get down low too. So make sure you get that. HiVTix.com, promo code everywhere.
Where?
Everywhere. Can we circle back real quick to the discussion we just had? MVP Wes is fighting back. He says Big 12 absolutely has a chance to get 2 in. Yeah, chance, I guess. Yeah, chance. Like I said, if you have a team sitting there with 1 loss that did not win the Big 12, could be a team, because Kansas State and Utah don't play each other. So they could match up 12-0 in the Big 12 championship game, and both those teams probably get in. I don't think it's a very good chance at all that the Big 12 gets 2 teams in.
My point, again, is it comes to perception when you have these human beings that are controlling all of this, and it's a television product. And the perception of the Big 12 is not high. They need to do some things to change that perception. If they can get some of these non-conference wins that I talked about, really an important thing this year, Chris, is to win a game in the playoff. That's how you change perception. Let's say Utah is the 4 seed, win a game in the playoff and move on in the playoff. That's how you start to change it. But right now, this is looked at by the SEC and the Big Ten as a mid-major league. That's what they think the Big 12 is.
And I also think that it's looked at as below the ACC as far as playoff teams that could potentially make it, because the ACC, now that took a hit with Florida State losing.
Yeah, that's huge. That's bad.
But the ACC has 3 teams that are looked at right now as potential playoff teams in Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. And Florida State's not out of it. I mean, they run the table. They're still in. Even
they ain't doing it with DJ, I can promise you.
No, probably. If you can't beat Georgia Tech in Ireland, you're not going to all of a sudden turn this thing around. But I think the ACC has a much better chance to get 2 in, even after the Florida State loss, than the Big 12 does.
Real quick, just wanted to point out, if you're watching, I'm using this Big 12 mug today that Brett Yormark personally gave me, and he handed me a gift bag when I was at Big 12 Media Days.
Really?
Just wanted to point that out.
Oh, that's cool. That's cute.
Because we're going to get into our conversation about UConn potentially joining the Big 12. But real quick, Maddie wants to show us our guy Pate, the Pate State poll.
Well,
is out.
Pate puts out his power. What do they call them? Power ratings.
We should do that.
They're
totally
not
rip it off.
So his thing is these are not rankings.
No,
it's a rating. It's a rating system.
So in his top 12, he doesn't have any Big 12 teams in his top 12. He has 4 Big 12 teams in the top 25, including K-State, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State in the top 25.
That's the problem with this league. They're all good.
Right.
Like, there's just not great. And they're all going to beat each other up, in my opinion. We'll see. So reports start to surface on Friday night about UConn and the Big 12. This is not a new topic. We've discussed it many times on this show. I worked the phones a lot this weekend. I have quite a bit of insight on it, Chris, but real quick, for those of you maybe you had to, do something completely away from sports and you're catching up all this morning. The reporting it. Brett McMurphy started the reporting. Ross Dellinger's on it. I don't know if anybody at CBS did, Dodd or Pate or any of those guys, but essentially, Chris, they would join in football in 2031. Why then? Because that's when the new TV contract starts with all of these leagues. The whole thing's going to blow up again at that point, and you're going to have massive realignment. All other sports starting in 2026, which would include UConn men's basketball, and I think a very under-talked about asset for the Big 12, UConn women's basketball, the most iconic women's basketball program in history. And that sport is like a skyrocket right now as far as women's basketball goes. The idea here is that they would eventually sell their TV package for basketball separately of football. There's a lot of people wanting to spend on live sports right now. We all know that. Turner just lost its NBA. I've heard that they might be interested. Whatever. That's another conversation for another day. The underlying thing here that I've heard is that the Big 12 presidents are still not on board with this. They're going to get an official pitch from Yormark this week. This has been a Yormark thing. He's really been pushing for UConn since day one. In fact, I know for a fact that he was pushing for UConn to be part of the last round of realignment. So you bring in 3 of the Pac-12 schools, whoever. I think they were going to say screw it with I think it was Arizona or Utah was giving them such a hard time. And they talked about bringing UConn in with that group. But this also sets up well if you want to do the ACC thing when that league inevitably blows up here in the next 5 or 6 leagues. But what's your response to this?
My response is great for basketball. Awesome. Love it. But come on. What, you're really going to take UConn football? What does UConn football give you? I mean, they're close to not even having a program.
You've lived out there. Like, it is beyond irrelevant, right?
Beyond. Yeah. Nobody up there cares about college football. I mean, you walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings on a Saturday afternoon in the fall, and they've got soccer on the TVs, and there's not many people in there.
Soccer?
Yeah. The Northeast does not care about college football. It doesn't. And UConn is just, look, they had a couple of good teams. They made a BCS game, 15 years ago or whatever. Is there no way to do this and say, UConn, you join just for basketball? Like, that would be my go. That would be what I would do if I'm a Big 12 presidents. Bring UConn in for basketball. It's clear that's all you want them for, right? What do they bring you in football? Nothing.
I I would guess if they do this, this would be a conversation that the Big 12 would have with them is you have 7 years. Invest in your football program. I'm not saying it'll work because I'm with you. The thing I like about the Big 12 right now is if you go up and down the roster of schools, all the fan bases care for the most part. They all care. They show up to games. They're great environments. It's what college sports are all about. UConn?
Yeah, they don't fit.
But I will say this. Think of it like, because this is what I bet would happen. If they add UConn and 26 and all these other sports, I think they'll add Gonzaga too.
Are you worried, though, at that point that
yes, the answer
Big
is
12
yes.
basketball is just it's too good? It's almost like what we've talked about with the SEC. Like, yeah, it's cool bringing in Texas and Oklahoma, but there's going to be some really, really historic programs that will only win 5 games a year.
It scares me for Iowa State. It's hard.
How is Iowa State going to compete year in and year out with all of these blue bloods?
Well, right now we have the best coach in the country. I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek, but I kind of believe it too. Okay.
Lots is great. Yeah, he's out.
So,
I would put him top 5 right now for what he's done.
Absolutely. You know, you have to think about, like, will he always be there? I mean, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, like, that job's just a lot harder. But think about that league, though. You could have Gonzaga, Kansas, UConn, and Arizona in the same league. I'm just saying from a TV value, that's all I'm saying.
Gonzaga, if you add Gonzaga, there's no football program coming with them, so why can't you do the same thing with UConn?
Well, it's another reason why, like, it's so stupid how these conferences work. Like, these sports should be able to be different. Like, football should be totally different than everything else. Am I, like, right? Like, why, like, TCU plays Stanford this weekend, and that's an ACC team. Right? Like, it's so stupid the way we have this. Fine, if Stanford wants to play ACC in football, like, I don't give a shit. Do it. Your volleyball team should be in a West Coast conference where it plays against institutions that the fans and players actually want to play against, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is so dumb that these conferences are sport-wide, like, throughout the whole – it doesn't make any sense. And, you'd like to think that would get corrected in the future, and I feel like it might, right? Like, we've heard, like, in this new thing, like, that Iowa and Iowa State cross-country – does Iowa have cross – whatever. They could be running against, like, Co. and Central College – in the future, and that's really the way this needs to be set up. Like, so I agree with you. Like, UConn should be able to independently join in men's and women's basketball and nothing else. Like, what you're gonna bring UConn rowing to the Big 12? I have no idea what they have out there, but right, like, it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And all these decisions, for the most part, to this point, have been made because of football. This decision would be, I think, the first basketball decision, but do it. Set a precedent.
Well, and they're also setting themselves up, I think, for, any future. Like, you're kind of just protecting yourself when you start to get as many teams as they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm torn on it, but I ultimately think it'll happen because, again, like, I kind of ask myself, Chris, I don't know if you do this, and Matt, but when these stories come out like this one did on Friday night, I immediately go to, why is this story coming out the way that it is? Who's pushing this story out? This looked like it came straight from the commissioner's desk.
Well, you got eyeballs on you right now, too, with the college football season starting. But
second year in a row they've done this, the week before the season.
Yep.
Where the Big 12 could be adding a program with the week of college football season.
If they add UConn and, say, Gonzaga for basketball, can we get rid of like half of these dumb non-conference basketball games and can we just play like everybody in the Big 12 plays each other? Let's do it.
Man, you'd like to think, but I also worry about, like, I mean, I'd like Drake to get more opportunities to play real opponents and not, I'm sorry, that was very condescending what I was talking about, a little major, but you know what I mean? Like, I like giving the Valley teams like a chance to play the big boys. Let them get some quad one wins, like the way it used to be.
Well, there will be even less of that the bigger the conferences get.
D1 college basketball is just way too big to begin with.
Yeah, 360 teams or so.
It's insane.
three times as big as football.
I think this ultimately happens. I think, and I asked Yormark about this in his press conference on Media Day, and he totally ducked my question. But I'm positive his plan is to separate football, men's and women's basketball, and do 2 television contracts in the future.
I think that would be smart.
He thinks he can double dip on revenue, and I'm guessing he thinks whatever hit UConn is football-wise, they're going to bring more to us in form of sponsorships. That's another thing we don't talk about enough. Because when we were in Boston for the Sweet 16, the UConn fans are crazy. Like, they are
UConn basketball fans are.
Yeah, they are nuts, man. Like, it's like
they don't follow the football program.
They do not. But you see where I'm going with this stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's looking at it like, okay, we'll suffer over here if it lifts us over here even more. The problem I have is just with college basketball and the way like it's so coach heavy. Like, if you're gonna add, like, UConn basketball is great right now, but if Dan Hurley would have gone to the Lakers, who knows? You make the wrong hire. Mark Few, after he's gone at Gonzaga, it's like, do they keep going? Like, Iowa State's hot right now. They're going to be a preseason top 10. If Otzelberger would ever leave, you know what I mean? Like, you can get all these programs, and it's great, but it doesn't mean they're always going to be good. This isn't like college football where it takes a really weird year for Alabama to not be in the 25 regardless of who the coach is. You see my point there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, if Yormark's not going to answer you, I think I know the guy that could ask the question and get some kind of response out of him.
Who's that?
Our boy Sean Keeler.
Oh, my God. Can we just start, when we refer to Deion Sanders, can we just call him Sharman?
Coach Sharman?
Yep, Coach Sharman over there in Boulder.
What in the hell is going on? He's got a clause in his contract that says he only has to talk to agreed upon media. And so he's totally shut out Keeler. Now, so if you're not familiar with the story, I think most of you are, but Colorado, the Buffaloes, have banned Sean Keeler, who's a columnist for the Denver newspaper there. And he used to be the columnist at the Des Moines Register. We know him well. He's a friend of ours. And so he's not going to be allowed to ask any questions to Deion Sanders, or I believe student athletes on the football team as well. I know Coach Prime is not going to, Coach Sharman is not going to answer any questions from him, but Keeler says he's still going to try to ask questions. I sent him a text yesterday. I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm still going to ask questions. He won't get the microphone because they hand a microphone around.
Raise his hand and people ignore him.
Coach, it's Keels. So this could get really fun.
There's a good piece in The Athletic. Trotter, what was the last name?
Jake Trotter?
No, it wasn't Jake. Jake works for ESPN. But he wrote about Deion's history with this, dating back to when he was in the NFL, just trying to erase people.
Yeah. He did it at Jackson State as well. He got a reporter banned from covering the team.
Coach Sharman. What'll be interesting here is how is he acting out? What if they're Matt? Can you pull up their schedule real quick? I mean, they get North Dakota State on Thursday night. I think they're 9.5 point favorite in that game. Their schedule sucks.
As in what?
It's hard.
Hard. Okay.
My point is, if Sharman's acting like this right now, they got Nebraska in week 2 in Lincoln, at Colorado State, which that will be a good game.
Colorado State should have beat them last year.
Yeah. And then they get Baylor, and then they have to go to UCF, Kansas State at home, at Arizona.
Wow.
Look at the start of that. They could be 2-6 or whatever.
And then they finish with Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. You're right. That's a tough schedule. What's their win total? 5.5?
Yeah, 5.5.
They won 4 games last year. He's making a lot of enemies, and I'm not just talking about Keeler. What he has done has turned a lot of people off.
Here, I want to address one thing too, because I got a lot of this. I was calling out Sharman on Twitter over the weekend. And a lot of people are like, oh, you media idiots are always just sticking up for each other and we don't need the point here is very simple. So sure, Keeler's been hard on Sharman. I get it. It just that's who Keeler is.
The Bruce Lee of BS.
It's a great line. That's what really good columnists, especially back in the day, they were a little more edgy and that's like.
Well, and I was surprised to learn that there are some people that don't really understand what columnists are.
It's a new age.
If you're a newspaper writer, you should be just giving us the facts. You shouldn't be opinionated. Well, that's what a columnist is. Now,
that and then the ones like that will respond and be like, why doesn't he like Colorado? Why doesn't he root for the Buffaloes, the team he covers? Like they don't understand like Keeler's job. Mm-hmm. My whole point is this whole I see it across media all the time now, where there's a lot of not college institutions necessarily, but like professional sports leagues even that think, oh, we don't need the media because we can do it ourselves. We'll put it out on our official feed. And I can promise you that that's a miss. Like you're going to get some eyeballs. People are going to follow you, all that stuff. But people still want objective information.
Yeah. They're not going to believe what you're putting out there.
Yeah, they don't want press releases all the time. And you run a real danger here now of where you think you're bigger than you really are. And so, yeah, people are like, well, now Keeler can't ask bad questions and be mean to Coach Sharman. Well, it makes him harder for him to tell positive stories after wins that you greatly rely on. Yeah. And not just him, but all media, right? Like there is an ecosystem that has to work here. And I understand these guys are all in their bubbles. They're all control freaks. This is across college football, okay? And most of college basketball. But there's got to be a check and balance somewhere where somebody in that sports information department, and those poor people are powerless in this situation. Yeah. I feel for them.
They're the mouthpieces of the head coach.
Or an athletic director who it seems like this guy at Colorado just lets Deion do whatever the hell he wants.
Deion, I did a couple Colorado games last year, and I spoke with some people that are part of the program. They gave Deion everything, like the university, the city of Boulder. He's got all the power in the world, even though he only won 4 games.
Yeah. How do you respond to that? I don't feel like I articulated it very well, but my whole point is just be careful about canceling all the media, even if you don't like them, because there's adverse effects too. This isn't just a pro media. Like, of course, I'm going to stick up for the media guy, especially when he's my buddy. Mm-hmm. But if I were, and I understand not everybody's in the position to do this, but if this happened at Iowa or Iowa State, I would get a text chain going and say nobody's asking a fucking question at the next press conference. Like, go ahead, let your play-by-play voice do everything. The fans are not going to fucking try, and it's not going to go very well for you. That's what I would do if this was happening in the state of Iowa. I don't know if it'll happen there, but there's got to be some sort of check and balance here. And I don't know everything Sean has written about Coach Prime. I have no idea. I do know this. This is a pattern of behavior for this guy. This isn't a one-time
for Coach
thing.
Prime, yeah.
Yes. This is a pattern.
Keeler, look, he's not trying to tear down the program. He
doesn't care.
Calling it like he sees it.
Yes.
I'm sure there were a ton of great columns he wrote glowingly about Coach Prime when they hired him early on last season when they were in the top 25. But, I mean, you see a lot of stuff has happened since then. And Coach Prime, he had all the media on his side a year ago. He was named Sportsman of the Year for 4 wins.
That's insane.
I mean, he had people captivated, but he has lost a lot of those people already. So if they don't win early on this season, boy, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get really ugly for him in Boulder.
So, Williams, to your point about the media members kind of sticking up for Keeler, I did watch a clip. I think it was from this past week, where some media members were kind of like sticking up for him and following up with questions like, hey, if we're critical of your program this year, are you going to do the same thing to us? And he's like, I just want to figure out why you guys are the way you are. Like, it's not a personal thing. I want to help you guys. Like, why are you guys attacking me? Like, Man, he's in his own head right now, and it's
if I'm a Colorado fan, I'm quite concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he's this rattled now, like, if you're super confident, I feel like you don't act like this. I mean, this has been a thing. That thing with the CBS reporter, and I think he apologized to that guy and gave him some access or so. It's just, again, this is a long pattern over decades with Deion Sanders. So we'll see.
And again, it's not like you're out there and you're poised to win 10 games and compete for a conference championship here. Like, it's going to get ugly if they start losing games early again this season, which they should.
Kaburski Brothers Lawn Care, I want to give them a shout-out. I hired them specifically to do some landscaping in my backyard. I got to get Van Winks to come take some professional photos of that. I did get the yard mowed, thank God. But
I was going to ask you, what did you wait, 3 weeks for that?
Oh, my God, it was brutal. I had to bag it. I had to mow it like twice. It was a bad situation. Anyways, this is a great time of year to hire for your landscaping, to do it in the fall. They've got some time freed up as well. So check out my friends, the Kaburski Brothers. They do a phenomenal job. Hired them myself. Matt's got their website pulled up on the YouTube. Right, look at them dadgum Kaburskis right there on the old.
Just the nicest
YouTube.
Guys.
They're phenomenal, and they're supporting what we do here at Iowa Everywhere. Want you to remember that. And last but certainly not least, a new sponsor here for the show in the month of September as we reach, and it is our friends over at Iowa Corn. Let's do the Triple B. How about that? Triple
bigger, better, bolder.
Powered by Kelderman Manufacturing.
Hell yeah, brother.
Bigger, better. I want to do some racing. Amazing story. Saturday night at Daytona. This kid, Harrison Burton, 70-1 going into this race to win. He had recently lost his ride for next year. In racing terms, he got fired. He wins the summer race at Daytona, is a 70-1 underdog, while his dad is on the call.
Is his dad Jeff Burton?
Jeff Burton's his dad, yeah, former NASCAR driver, now broadcaster. By the way, one of the underrated color guys in all of sports. He's so good if you're watching NASCAR. This was a cool story. They're not a dry eye.
Harrison Burton wins in Daytona and does what his uncle and dad did. How about that?
Wait a second. Awesome. NASCAR has the South African guy calling races?
Something's going on there because he doesn't usually do it.
Oh, look at that. Oh, an absolute firecracker crossing the line.
Usually it's my buddy Rick Allen. Did you know I used to call races with NASCAR's normal guy at a dirt track in Nebraska back in the day? Did you know that?
What? Say that again?
The guy who's normally on the call, Rick Allen, I used to call races with him at Eagle Raceway.
Oh, really?
Way back in the long story.
That's just really weird that they have that guy calling.
Lee Diffie. No, he's
Lee Diffie. He's the guy that calls the sprints in the Olympics.
So he's their IndyCar guy. So he calls all their
the IndyCar is more it's more in line. But NASCAR, I mean, really, you should have like a Southern guy.
What do you
with
got
a
against
twangy accent.
South Africans?
I got nothing against South Africa. Is that where he's from, South Africa, or is he English?
That.
I don't know. It just doesn't fit.
That was a nice move he made there to cut that guy.
Oh, it was awesome. Man, every once in a while, my guys at NASCAR, they pull a great freaking deal, and it just gives me goosebumps. And I had one of those on Saturday night. I love underdog stories. And the way NASCAR works is now this Harrison Burton who got fired gets to be in NASCAR's playoff. It's a cool story. What do you got?
Sean says he's from Australia, by the way, which is still, I mean, I have a really tough time with the Australian accent. I can't imitate an Australian accent. Anywho.
Good day, mate.
Let's go to Ireland again, okay, for my Triple B. And Brent Key, the head coach at Georgia Tech. This went under the radar last year. They were pretty good. They had 2 ranked wins. They played Georgia the last game of the season, only lost by 8. They won a bowl game against UCF. This program is on the rise thanks to Brent Key. And did you hear his post game?
He did. It was awesome. He's great.
Van Winks is going to play. So the reporter asked him, if he's going to have a Guinness or two, and this is how he responds.
Stick with the Powerade tonight. We got a game next Saturday.
Says he's sticking with Powerade tonight. We got a game next Saturday. We'll go back to his bowl game.
Can we have one Guinness, Coach?
A reporter asks him, because he gets, quote unquote Gatorade bath, and the reporter says, "You smell like Gatorade." Take a listen.
Coach, you smell like Gatorade. Saw you over there hyping up the crowd, and you told us this week 7-6 looks a lot better than 6-7. What does this bowl win mean?
It's Powerade. We're Coca-Cola school.
So this is a good segue from NASCAR. This guy,
that's awesome,
is so into it that he's going to mention Powerade after his last two games in the postgame. It's Powerade. We're Coca-Cola school. Coach, you going to enjoy a few Guinnesses tonight? No, it'll be Powerade. We got a game next week. But he's doing a fantastic job at Georgia Tech. I didn't think that this program was going to be back, like not back, but like legit. I mean, they've got another ranked win. That's 3 ranked wins in the last 13 games for this team.
Yeah, obviously this guy is doing something right. He's
at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, future Big 12 school. Got to get that Atlanta market,
Van
Winks, what did Brock Purdy do this week?
Jeez, we're already at an hour. Yeah, Brock Purdy, my triple B. You got to bring him back. Why not? Did you see this pass?
Season.
Did you see this pass he had to Kittle, by the way?
Oh, for God's sake!
Check out this pass. Oh, threads the needle.
I don't know. He just threw
We're
it
back,
up there
baby.
For Kittle.
Well, this should
we're back.
That was against Purdy. Van Winks. I watched this
kind
game.
Of a dangerous throw.
I watched this game.
Perfect throw.
The 49ers were playing their starters, and the Raiders, they sat their first 2 strings. It was third stringers the whole. Max Crosby didn't even dress. So the Raiders were plus 500 to win the game outright.
Isn't that hockey player?
That's Sidney Crosby.
Oh.
The Raiders were plus 500 to win the game outright because the fact that the 49ers were playing starters and the Raiders weren't. So I took them as a flyer. They ended up in a tie.
Matt, did you read the Athletic/New York Times piece on Purdy?
I have the David Lombardi piece. I have it bookmarked. I got to read that.
It is so good. So he spent a day or two in Ames with Mauser, who recruited Purdy. Did you know that, Hassel, that Mauser was the one who discovered Purdy?
Yeah, Arizona guys, a couple of Arizona boys.
He's from Taylor's from Arizona. And then they spent time with Campbell, and they were going through, and they gave him a bunch of practice tape of Purdy when he was on the third string, making the first team defense look terrible. It's really good. Nice. And I generally these national pieces on Iowa State don't do much for me because it's just a bunch of regurgitated stuff. I thought it was one of the best national pieces that I've read in a long time on our state, at least.
Lombardi does a great job with the Athletic covering the Niners. So
yeah,
we're ready. Week 1's coming up. Actually, Thursday. Next Thursday is the first NFL game? Man.
Yeah,
week from Thursday.
Week from Thursday. Yeah, it's here, guys. We will be big week. Downs made the announcement today. He's going to join me on the CW pod tomorrow to talk.
AD is back. All right, CW pod. Okay.
Yep, that's coming up tomorrow. Great. Talk about the comeback, and then we're going to have legends and listeners as always, and we will be starting our new Big 12 show. What are we calling the bigger than 12? Sorry, we have so many announcements. I'm just trying to keep them all straight. I'm excited to get Jake Brend and Derek Duke back. Well, Jakey Brend is going up to that Blackhawk concert, and he's going to do some interviews on stage with Iowa State players that Channel Seed's bringing on, so that'll be cool.
There's going to be some Iowa State players there?
Yeah, it's Lipsy, some heavy hitters.
You going to make him wrestle?
Oh,
is Lipsy going to be up there wrestling somebody, grappling?
Van Winks is going to be there with the he's just going to be shaking hands with all the seedsmen who are up there to spreading their seed this
Love
week
our seedsmen
at the Farm Progress. So, anyways, I'll have the camper there, Hassel. You should fly up for this.
Wait, this is when? This weekend?
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday
night.
Not happening.
Blackhawk is in town.
I'm looking forward to this being over so you can stop saying that. Because I know what you're doing, you sicko. Everybody knows what you're doing.
AD is back.
AD's back. He's going to be producing Murph and Andy and doing other things, including your podcast tomorrow.
Look forward to that. He's Chris Hassel. I am Chris Williams. Thanks to Matt Van Winkle for producing. Please, a reminder, like, follow, review, all that good stuff. It helps us grow. We're all about algorithms here on Iowa Everywhere.